Hi everyone, welcome to the TriEssence martial art channel. Kung Fulosophy Episode 3 Are Internal Styles Good for Health? Part 2. So in our last part 1, we've talked about the common fallacy where people associate internal martial art health benefits with longevity. They tend to look at how long someone will live for in this particular style to determine if the style is good for health, right? I talk about that in China. There are people who compile lists to check if Xinyi Liuhe has the most longevity master, or does Tai Chi have, and depending on that kind of records, and they want to make an assumption that maybe Xinyi Liuhe is healthier than training Tai Chi. And I talk about how that is a completely incorrect way of thinking, because martial art, or whether it's internal or external or any exercise for that matter, is only contributing a very small portion to how long a person will live for, right? The genetic are the most important contributor, and then there's the living style, living habits, whether you have a healthy life or not, dietary, living environment, all of those things play a far more important role than actual training. Training is not that it's not important, but if you're meant to say live up to 70, no matter what training you do, is not going to push you to 90, right? That's just not the way it works. Which is why it is very unfair to judge any exercises benefits towards longevity by looking at how long these practitioners live, unless you do an actual test with a controlled environment, controlled test subject, have everybody have the same health condition, live in the same environment for a specific period of time, doing different training. And as far as I know, there are no such research being conducted, and therefore any assumption we made towards the subject is not proven, and therefore we shouldn't take it seriously. Alright, so now with that said, in today's video, we're going to talk about another aspect of health. We're talking about health benefits. Longevity is the first thing that comes to mind. For Chinese people at least, this is the first thing that comes to mind, is longevity. But in recent years, people are also starting to realize that there's something called the quality of life, which means living long is one thing, but let's say you can live up to 100, but you are in bed, unable to get up from your bed for 40 years, from like 60 to 100. Sure, you've been living long, but the quality of living is pretty bad, and you might not be able to enjoy the life you're living through. And therefore, not only do people should strive for living a longer lifespan, they also need to live a healthier and more quality life, which means you'll be able to do things in your older age. And to do that, you need to have a healthier body. Not just how long you live, but whether you can do things with your body or not, whether you can still walk around, enjoy your life, go to places, travel, read, or whatever you enjoy doing. So that's another aspect of healthy lifestyle. So today we're going to talk about internal martial arts relationship towards the quality of life, right? Does it actually make you healthier? Now, when talking about this, a lot of people that I've encountered in the past will say, obviously it's healthy, and I'm going to ask why. He'll say, because I feel it, right? I mean, most people tend to think this way. If I'm experiencing the benefit firsthand, then it must be true, and nothing anyone else can say is ever gonna convince me otherwise if I'm feeling its benefit firsthand. While this might sound like a solid argument on face value, but if you really look into this kind of topic, you realize that our human perception are designed to be confirmation bias. So what that means is we don't actually, very seldomly, if ever, look at the evidence and logically deduce the most objective conclusion. Instead, we have certain expectation that we're already precognited in our head, and we look for evidence and proof to fit what we have preconceived. And what this means is that what you actually feel or experience firsthand doesn't necessarily mean it is what actually happens. Right now, when I'm talking about this, and some of you might not believe it, so to further illustrate this point, I'm going to borrow some examples from the World Science Festival, where they talked about our perception of reality, and then we can see for ourselves what actual professional researchers in the field are saying about our perception. So over here you see a picture with a cube and there are two squares, one on the top middle and one in the side in the middle, right? And those two cubes appear to be different color. The one on top appears darker, the one on the side facing toward us appears lighter. However, those two small cubes are actually of the same color. The reason we feel the one on top is darker and the one toward the side is lighter is because of the ambient color surrounding it, right? In the top, because the color around it is actually lighter, therefore that color appears darker. Whereas on the side, because the surrounding appears darker, therefore that appears lighter. Now, if you block the surrounding colors out, you can clearly then see those two cubes are the exact same color. Now, what this tells us is that, okay, now humans evolve 5 senses, and our visual sense is actually one of the most evolved ones. We can say that humans are visual creatures, right? Through evolution and survival of the fittest, our vision gives us the most information in terms of survival, right? Compared to, say, dogs, which might rely more on a sense of smell, whereas other animals such as the rats will rely more on, for example, the whiskers to feel the surroundings. So different animals evolve different senses to help them survive. For humans, vision is one of the most important. Of course, all 5 senses are important, but vision are the most important. And often, in Chinese we have a say, 口眼见为实, which in English there's a direct equivalent called, seeing is believing. So we often place a lot of trust on our vision. But this example that we just saw shows you that our vision are actually not that trustworthy. What we see might not actually be the truth. We can easily be fooled by various conditions. And if our vision, which is our most important sense of survival through our evolution, can't be fully trusted, then our other senses are equally doubtful when it comes to experiencing the truth. So now here's another example, right? We see a spinning shape in the middle of the screen. Now, some people will see it spinning from left to right, and some will see it spinning from right to left. And some of you, if you can squint your eyes or do something else, you can actually revert the spin depending on whichever side you started with. So what this example shows us, again, is that what we perceive with what we see through our vision are heavily influenced by our perception or bias, right? Depending on your cultural orientation, people from a certain culture would more likely to see it spinning from left to right, and other culture might more likely to see it spinning from right to left, depending on your predominant perception. And obviously, ultimately, we can say that nothing is actually spinning in this picture. It's just pixels that imitate a rotation. These 2D imagery that imitate a 3D rotation. But the moment we see it in our mind, we construct a 3D imagery of what it represents rather than what the actual information is shown on the pixelation. So what this tells us is that our brain, our eyes, and our other senses are evolved and designed to draw certain type of conclusion out of the information provided rather than perceive the information on its factual value, right? When we see that, we don't think about this as 2D pixelation, we see it as a 3D spinning object because that information or the perception of that information is more important than the actual information presented on the picture. And what this had to do with our today's topic is that it shows that it's very hard for humans to remain objective and to see exactly what is present. Rather, we tend to see some hints that fit our preconception and then develop our own prediction of what should happen based on our own experience rather than seeing what actually happens. Lastly, we're gonna take a look at an audio example. So here's a sound that actually has absolutely no meaning. Okay, but now if we write something on the screen and you read what is written there while you're listening to the sound, and then see what happens. You see, the more you read the text and listen to the sound at the same time, the more that sound sounds like what is written on the screen. And this is a very good example to show how humans are inclined toward confirmation bias. Even when the information presented has absolutely no actual meaning, if we are given a hint or a guide to what it could mean or should mean, then our mind and our ears and everything else naturally makes a connection and turns this meaningless sound into something meaningful. So based on these examples, we can basically understand that as a human being, we live through confirmation bias, preconception, and prediction. Everything we perceive, we are not actually perceiving exactly what it is. Even when you're reading, very seldom do you actually read every single word for word. You read a whole sentence, you see the keyword, and you predict what the sentence more or less say. And the same can be said about everything else we do in life. When we're looking at stuff, we are not picking up every single detail. We look at a few key aspects through in front of you, and you make deduction or prediction of what is actually all in front. So how this links to our today's topic of discussion is that we need to realize that as human beings, we are born to have perception, confirmation bias, and prediction rather than observing the factual truth. And therefore, often our experience is guided or heavily influenced by what we are expecting it to happen. And very suddenly can actually keep a fully 100% open mind and to pick up only what is given, right? Often, most of the time, we have something in our head, even if we don't want to, and then we take what we see or pick up with our senses and try to make it fit what we already have in our mind. So the point here is, if we can't even fully trust the information we gather from our five senses, then how can we trust at all what we feel about something? Which is the feeling that we get, or the experience, internal experience, is far more vague and not concise compared to the sense of vision, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Which is why, scientifically speaking, your first-person experience can only be taken as consideration but never as empirical evidence or proof. And that's also why in modern scientific studies, the scientists always try to take the human factor out of the equation. When they study something, they try their best to not involve human understanding or interpretation or perception. Instead, they set up the experiment in such a way that machineries, mathematics, and other non-human related methods are the sole dependency on the outcome of the experiment. Because only then are you able to measure the actual objective truth on the topic or subject. This is just like saying, if you want to know how long a certain object is, you take out a ruler and you measure it. You don't measure with your hand, you don't measure with your eyes, because everyone's hand is at a different length and everyone's eye measurement is going to vary. But a ruler with a standard measurement matrix would always be the same no matter where you are or who's measuring it. And this is much like if we were to train internal martial art for martial purpose. You can't judge your own martial ability by how you feel. Like, I'm doing a stance, I feel like I'm strong, I feel like I can resist force, I feel like I can hurt people, I feel like I can send somebody falling back or flying. That kind of feeling is irrelevant. What you need to do is to have someone truly apply force to you to know if you can withstand a certain amount of force. And to put your ability into actual stress testing, having someone to spar with or someone to fight with in order to know if what you do are really effective. Now, unfortunately, it's not that easy to test the value of health benefit of internal martial art as opposed to its martial benefit. And therefore, under the same notion, if you really want to understand the actual realistic health benefit of any exercise, including internal martial arts, you can't use your own personal experience or feeling as the evidence to prove that whether it is healthy or not. Instead, you will need to do actual empirical researches, which I believe at the moment are not being done properly because this isn't a field that frankly, a lot of scientists are interested in and could get funding for. Which is why at the moment we can say that internal martial arts are healthy for the practitioners, but we don't know if it's healthier than anything else that's available on the market. So therefore, when anyone who did some Tai Chi training, some other internal martial art training, some Qigong training, and then come and say that, I feel so much better. This Qigong training is so much better than any other exercise I've done before. What is a very slim chance that this may be true factually, but most of the time, it's just because of your mind convincing yourself that this is better than everything else you do. Now, are internal styles or Qigong or exercises good for your health? The answer is yes. If you do them correctly, obviously it is good. But is it better than any other exercise? That is very hard to say. Because again, there are not enough research done on this topic to say for sure. But you simply cannot make this kind of assumption based on your personal experience. Of course, this is not to say that if you feel good doing Qigong or Tai Chi or whatever other internal martial art you do, that you should stop doing it, right? If you feel good doing it, then by all means do it. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, there's something else that could be at play, that what we call a placebo effect, right? It's basically when you take a patient, you give him sugar candy, but you tell him or her that this is actual medicine, and you can actually observe that the patient will recover because he believes that this is medicine, right? This is called the placebo effect. It basically means that in certain scenarios, if you mind believing you're receiving medicine, even though if you're not, your body still recovers. There's also a famous proverb in China called 杯弓蛇影, where they talk about a guy who went to someone else's house for a drink, and he saw a snake in his cup, a shadow of a snake actually. And when he went back home, he got sick, very sick, and no doctor could actually cure him. They've tried all kind of medicine, it doesn't work. When a friend heard of this, he suddenly realized what happened, so he invited him back. And he put down another cup, and the guy sees the exact snake in it again. And then he pointed out that it's actually the reflection of a bowl that was hanging on the wall, which is causing this reflection. And upon realizing that, the person recovered instantaneously. Obviously, this is a story, it probably didn't happen, but it talks about the same kind of thing that in modern medical science we call it the placebo effect. Is that your mind often play trick really enough that they actually affect your physical health. Which is why, if you believe that you doing Tai Chi is better for your health than any other exercise, then chances are maybe you are getting more benefit from Tai Chi than if you were to do Pilates or jogging or whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with it. However, you cannot turn around and make a universal claim that Tai Chi is definitely better than all the other exercises simply because that's how I experience it. Right? Our experience are very subjective. Someone else who believes in jogging most likely will get more benefit from jogging than doing Tai Chi. So unless the actual studies, what they call the double-blind test, where they remove the potential influence of placebo effect, otherwise we just simply cannot know if internal martial arts are better for health than any other exercises out there. Furthermore, I will say that people should take even more precaution towards people who market internal martial art as some kind of miracle cure. For example, I have seen people who claim that doing Tai Chi will prevent cancer or will actually cure cancer, all kind of crazy claims. Now, obviously, there are no empirical evidence that can, prove this kind of claim. Whether Tai Chi can prevent cancer or not, there's no evidence, and I would say probably not. In fact, at this current stage, we don't even know exactly what causes cancer. I mean, sure, there are different things that we can observe in people that causes cancer for them, but then we can also see the same habit or action done with other patients, and that's not cause cancer. So at the moment, this whole concept on cancer is still very new. We don't actually know enough about it. And in this kind of stage, for anyone to claim that Tai Chi is good at preventing cancer or curing cancer is completely bogus and should be disregarded, and whoever claims that should be red flagged. And now you might think, but if placebo effects are real. If someone, practices Tai Chi and believes that it cures cancer, then maybe it does. Well, you see, here's the thing. Placebo effect has a very limited effect. It doesn't cure everything, right? If that was the case, then we don't need modern medical science. Everyone just believes it and simply they will be cured of all diseases. So the way placebo effect actually works is that if there is a sickness that your body could naturally recover from, but maybe takes longer, and then if you believe you're taking medicine when you are not, the placebo effect takes place, and you might recover faster than if you didn't believe you were taking medicine. So those are basically things that you could naturally recover from, right? If you, for example, got bitten by a poisonous snake, a black mamba, no matter how hard you believe that you are taking the antidote, if you're not taking the antidote, you will die. So the same goes for stuff like cancer, terminal illnesses, right? Placebo effect has no power on these things. So if you don't take the proper treatment, you are gonna die. Believing that Tai Chi cures cancer is not gonna cure cancer. And I personally really hated when people do that, because essentially, they might pretend like they're trying to help the desperate, but what actually they're doing, they're preying on the desperate. When people are desperate, they're willing to try anything. They're willing to give all the life-saving just for a slim chance of maybe recovering from the disease. And for anyone to stand so low as to benefit financially from people who are desperate and are dying, I think those are the worst kind of humans we have in this planet. And they should really be ashamed of themselves. Now, for example, I have a student who's been with me for around 10 years. Before she studied under me, she had cancer and went to chemo and recovered what's it called remission, I believe. And obviously, those of you might know, a cancer patient, every 10 years or so, the cancer reoccurs. There's almost nothing you can do about it. So after she recovered from her first cancer scenario, she started, she wanted to live healthy, so she started doing Tai Chi with me. And then throughout this period of time, she got her cancer the second time. And between chemo and other treatments, she was also trying her best to do Tai Chi. And for herself, she believed that Tai Chi really helped her in recovery. I mean, obviously not curing cancer, right? She went to chemo and all of that for combating the actual disease, but she feels that doing Tai Chi helped her for recovery. And she was willing to, she actually offered to give me testimonies and to tell people about this. And I never took her up on offer, because I believe whatever she experienced is her own belief, and it does not mean that this is true for everyone else. And while if she helped me with testimony, I might potentially get a lot more students and make more money, but I would not be able to sleep at night and live with myself, which is why, even though she's offered it many times, I've never agreed to let her do it. And I don't want anyone to come and do Tai Chi believing that this is going to be a miracle cure for cancer or any other terminal illness. It simply is not. And whenever somebody asks me about the health benefits, I simply tell them that it is like doing any other exercise. So whether you like doing Tai Chi or jogging or Pilates or yoga, is up to you. So whether someone does Tai Chi for health or not, or Xingyi or Bagua or whatever, is a personal choice. They should make this choice because they enjoy doing Tai Chi, or they like Tai Chi for some reason, rather than they believing that Tai Chi or Xingyi or Bagua has more benefits for health than everything else that there is to offer. And of course, this is under the presumption that you're doing correctly. If you train Tai Chi or any other martial art or any other exercise for that matter, incorrectly, you actually might end up harming yourself. But this is not like you do incorrectly and you will live 20 years shorter than you otherwise would, right? Like we talked about in the last video, where some people claim that young style Tai Chi is unhealthy because people keep dying young. No, I don't believe any kind of exercise can have that kind of detrimental effect. However, for example, if you do Tai Chi incorrectly, through a long period of time, in the wrong correct angle, height, and pressure, you might injure your knees. So doing something incorrect can have negative effect in that sense, but it's not going to shorten your lifespan by 10 or 20 years. And lastly, there are actually some unique benefits when it comes to internal martial art training. And by unique, I mean that they are different from conventional regular exercise. For example, Tai Chi, Xingyi, Bagua, internal styles, they have certain type of benefits that are different from if you're gonna do jogging or yoga or Pilates. And of course, jogging has its benefits that internal martial arts don't have. For example, cardio, right? Internal martial arts doesn't really train cardio or fitness. Therefore, if you want that kind of benefit, you have to do jogging or other variants. But internal martial arts do have certain unique benefit. And I use this unique word loosely because it might not be only found in internal martial arts. Some of them actually might be found in yoga as well. Some might be found in other exercises that I'm not aware of. So I'm not saying unique as in absolutely it's only found in internal martial arts. But there are certain things that internal martial art does that conventional exercises, at least the one that I've seen and observed, do not have. And these benefits are not based on your personal experience on how you feel. Do you feel healthy after doing it? It's not about that. It's about actual ways of training the body that you can observe from a factual perspective. And that we will be covering in our final part to Kung Fulosophy Episode 3, Are Internal Styles Good for Health? So I hope this video has made sense to you guys. For any questions or suggestions, constructive comment, please leave them in the comment below and I'll make sure to get back to you. And if I do not get back to your comment, then either I'm really too busy or I consider your comments trolling. Okay, I'm not gonna waste time replying about things that I've already covered in my videos. If you didn't bother watching those videos, or if you watch the videos and you stop making those comments, then clearly you are just trying to waste my time. For example, on my video regarding Chen Xiaowang, someone commented that have I actually touched hand with him? If you actually watch the video, you will know the answer to that, and you will know that the answer to that is irrelevant because in the video I put forth actual evidence of why I don't think he is good, and the fact that there's a video of him touching hand with someone in Taiwan called Liao Bai, as well as how the trajectory of his punches are problematic, of him faking demos and all of those evidence. So if you're really upset about my content in the video, address the evidence that I provided instead of asking dumb questions like have I ever personally touched hand with him? Because that is frankly quite stupid because he wouldn't touch hand with me. And if he willing to touch hand with anyone, go find Xu Xiaodong first. He's been trying to touch hand with him forever. But obviously, if your question aren't in line of trolling like this, then if I haven't got back to you, this means I've simply been too busy, or that Google failed to notify me that someone posted a new comment. And if that were the case, eventually I will definitely get around to it. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe on YouTube channel. You can also support me and the channel on Patreon. That would be greatly appreciated. And as always, a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Thanks for you guys, I will be able to continuously making videos and to share my understanding and experience of Chinese martial arts. And lastly, I would like to remind everyone that pandemic is still around. Wave 2 is coming, so keep your social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, wear gloves if possible, and try to stay away from crowd. Hope that everyone will stay safe out there. And thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Art channel, and I'll see you next time.